everybody. My name is Anthony. It is 1700 on a Friday night, Central European time. And that means one thing and one thing only. We have an amazing panel of the most awesome people you could possibly imagine. My name's Anthony. I'm the host of this round table. It's my responsibility to immediately decenter myself and recenter focus on the people you've come here to see. But before we get into it, I want to thank the sponsors of this event. This is =EU and shemakes. These are EU funded, so projects that have been funded by the European Union to focus on this issue of gender inclusive innovation. And we span everything from the tech sector all the way through to textile and fashion industry. We touch almost every aspect of society. Now, again, both projects have received generous funding from the European Union, so I want to recognize that and express my sincere gratitude. Now, let's get our panelists in the room. Instead of doing the typical introductions where everybody kind of goes around and tells a little bit about themselves, we're going to jump right in to a nice creative thinking exercise. And this is a way of getting to know everybody. So the first thing that I want to do is think about metaphors. And I want to think about metaphors for your career, because this will help us think differently about how we approach our work. So panelists, I want you guys to go through each one of you and give me a metaphor for your career. And if you're watching the live stream, why don't you throw a metaphor for your career into the comments, into the chat, so we can all share that. Now, a metaphor, it follows a very simple structure. My career is like, fill in the blank, because, fill in the blank. Let's get things started. Oludele, can we start with you, please? My career is like, because.
Okay, hi everyone. My career is like a tree because at the beginning stages, you need a lot of watering, a lot of input for it to grow and stay strong. And at a point, it starts to blossom, starts to bring fruit, and there are many other impacts I can make once I'm grown and strong. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And what a fitting analogy. I think we can all relate to that tree metaphor of being able to say, I started as a seed, and then I've grown into something really amazing and wonderful. And I see that in you, Oludele. So thank you for that. Alexandra, let's hear from you, please.
Hi, everyone. This is Alexandra Florea from Isai. Isai is the fashion brand I've launched, which uses only Romanian wool. With the aim to save what we've been wasting for many years. About 75% of wool in Romania has been thrown away. And yes, for sure, the metaphor that I'm going to say has to do with also how I got to launch the fashion brand. So my career is like unpeeling the onion, because I feel like I'm only becoming closer to myself, and closer to myself means also the product of Isai. And I've been unpeeling all the layers to come more connected to my inner being. And that is also the slogan of Isai, the journey inwards. And that's, yeah, I definitely identify with that a lot.
I absolutely love it. That journey inwards is just part of life. There's a wonderful, I believe it's Japanese philosophy called ikigai, which is all about finding your purpose in life. And I see you have found that purpose. And I think that's just brilliant, brilliant, brilliant work. Let's go now to Andreea. Andreea, what is your metaphor? Andreea?
Well, now I think it's okay. My career is like a roller coaster, but with the stations like the trains have, but it goes in all directions, and it stops, and it gives me time to think about and to enjoy what happened, and all this because it's exciting and it's fun, but also scary and challenging. But that's how I would summarize it.
I love it. I love it. It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes, that life is chaos. It's important to be kind. And I think you kind of have that perspective on some of the work that you've had to do getting through some of those trials and overcoming those obstacles. So that's a beautiful analogy. I love it. Let's go now to Cristina. Cristina, what is your metaphor for your career?
So good afternoon, everyone. So it's Cristina from Geneva, Switzerland, and I think that my career would look like a spiral, but a spiral going outward, because I started from the very center, from a dot, which would be in my case science and technology, and then slowly I went around. And I feel like even if I'm going further from the center, from the dot where I started from, everything is connected.
I couldn't imagine a more fitting metaphor for any of our careers. I think that this idea of evolution is really captured well in that metaphor. So brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Last but certainly not least, we have Sokhong. Sokhong, I would love to hear from you. What is the metaphor for your career?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Anthony, and good evening, everyone. My name is Sokhong from Cambodia. So I work as a project coordinator for Sister of Gold, a non-profit educational program working to empower women in technology and to develop more female digital creators in Cambodia. For me, my metaphor career in STEM education is like a turning point in my life where I start to discover my true self and my true potential, also my passion, especially in learning, also rewarding me to help the girl in my country and my community to assess the quality of education through technology education. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely brilliant. And I see that metamorphosis kind of coming through in what you've said there. So that's fantastic. So we've gotten to know a little bit about you, each one of these wonderful panelists. But I want to dig back into your childhood a little bit. And I want to ask each one of you, if you could give your 5-year-old self a piece of advice that would help guide and help find her path, what would that advice be? And I'm going to start this time, I think, with Cristina. And Cristina, you told us a little bit already about who you are and where you're from. You're from Geneva, we know that. But why don't you give us a little bit more about yourself and then give us your advice for your 5-year-old self?
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. So my career in one sentence. So I started as a physicist. I'm a physicist, an experimental physicist by training. But during my PhD, I realized, I found out that I was enjoying more to tell people what I was doing than doing it. And so I deviated from the standard path from researchers. And I got involved in more and more projects about science and technology with and for society. So basically all the topics that are the interface of hard science and societal issues that includes communication, education, democratization of science and technology. And if I could speak to myself, a little girl who was 5 years old, some years ago now, is to be patient, because I always wanted to have everything immediately, and which has positive sides, but could be also be frustrating. So to be patient, to wait, because things need time to evolve, to develop, to blossom, and we are not in charge of everything. So we need also to depend from things and people around us.
That's brilliant, Cristina, and I really I adore that piece of advice, because it's something that I wish I would have told my 5-year-old self too. I think we have a similar character, and we're kind of very demanding on ourselves, and then we expect everything to happen right now. And then it's good to take a breath, take a beat, and just take a step back and see, okay, we'll let it unfold as it goes. Thank you so much, Cristina. And thank you for being here. Seeing your progression from a physicist to what you're doing now is absolutely phenomenal. And I think everybody here kind of has a similar perspective on how our stories can change dramatically throughout our lives. So let's move now. Let's ask Andreea. Andreea, could you introduce yourself briefly and give us your advice for a 5-year-old self?
Of course. So I'm Andreea from Redu. I have a background in arts. I have a bachelor degree in theatrical arts and acting. And I kept doing that for the past 12 years with a short stop. In between this time, I started volunteering for a local NGO, MyBine, which is whose work is and activity is oriented to sustainable development and local resilience, ethical consumption, fair trade. And through this NGO, Redu was born, where now I am co-managing the place and alongside with one of my best friends. And Redu is a project that gives new life to textile waste and educates, raises awareness about the fashion industry and the impact on the environment. What would I tell to my 5-year-old self? Well, take it one step at a time. They're going to happen. It's a 50-50 chance. Some things happen, some things don't. And change that swimming teacher.
Did you say swimming teacher?
Yeah.
Oh my
gosh.
I feel like there's another
water.
story here that we might have to dig into later. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Andreea. This is so profound to hear you go from something like the performing arts into this NGO as an entrepreneur and trying to work in the sustainability sector. I have so much admiration and respect for you. And I think I'm noticing a running theme so far in terms of the advice for your 5-year-old self. It's a lot of just take it easy. It's going to be okay. All right. Fantastic. I see Sokhong. Can I ask you to please introduce yourself briefly and tell us what your advice for your 5-year-old self would be?
Okay, my name is Sokhong. I'm from Cambodia. I'm working to promote gender equality and education with an innovative program in Cambodia, offer a free coding curriculum to all Cambodia girls to increase more women empowerment into tech, because we believe that the education is only the key to help sustainable our community and our country develop further. And for me, my advice for my 5 years old self is taking a risk. Whenever opportunities throw at you, just take it. Whether you can do it or not, at least you take the first step and you can learn and develop it. In case if you fail, don't afraid, because at least you learn something new and you can improve for the better. And also to mention as well, thank you to myself that I never give up, and I got a chance to work and learn a lot. And I am also a Video Rising Star at Video, and also Equal EU Young Reference Group, where I hope to contribute my skill and learn more from innovative program in Europe that to promote gender equality and where women and girls have the equal opportunity to assess the quality of education. Thank you.
Thank you, Sokhong. And I know that the work you're doing there in Cambodia is absolutely vital. Being able to empower women and girls there and enable them to get education, and education they have a right to is important. And absolutely vital work. So I want to express my sincere gratitude to you for championing that effort, because it's just it's really admirable. And thank you. And yes, I think take that risk, just jump off the platform and see where you go, see where life takes you. I love that as advice for your 5-year-old self. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I see Oludele has rejoined us. So Oludele, could you please introduce yourself very briefly and then give us your advice that you'd give your 5-year-old self?
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Oludele Olaitan from Nigeria, and I'm an electrical engineering graduate. I graduated last year actually. And the advice I'd like to give to my 5-year-old self is that, first of all, don't feel pressure to do what everybody is doing. You know what you want to do, or even if you don't know what you want to do, it's okay to take your time and figure it out. Don't just jump into something because everybody's doing it, and don't stop being creative. And even if you fail once, that's not the end of the world. You keep on trying again, trying, and you get like what you want. So in spite of failure, in spite of confusion, just do you and do what makes you happy. Yeah, that's what I would like to tell my 5-year-old self.
That is absolutely brilliant, and it's heartwarming to hear these pieces of advice. I would love for us to just all take note of this, because these little pieces of wisdom are part of our stories, and it's part of what we've grown to know. It's part of our wisdom, our collective wisdom. And I really appreciate the kind of future that you have, Oludele, there in Nigeria. I think you're going to achieve great things, especially with the background that you have. It's really, really inspired. I want to encourage everyone who's watching the live stream, why don't you take a moment and put into the chat, what is your best advice for your 5-year-old self? Why don't we all share this so we can understand a little bit more about where we've come from and where we might be going. Now, I know we have one more person to hear from their advice for their 5-year-old self, and that is Alexandra. Alexandra, you briefly introduced yourself before, so that's great. I think we could jump right in and hear your advice for your 5-year-old self.
Thanks, Anthony. I thought I'm skipped for this because for giving an advice for the 5-year-old, I had to think about it for a second, and I hope the 5-year-old would also grasp this message, because we're so little then and we know so little. But for sure, what I would tell any younger self is to not believe what other people tell you about you. And because they will only project their life experience and background, their own insecurities and fears and trauma and pain, they'll project it on you, and you should not believe that. Even though you're 5-year-old only, you already know who you are, and trust that, and take that with you wherever you go. And believe that what you've been given at birth, that is only for you, and that's your true gift.
Stand in your truth. I love that. I love that passion for who we are and understanding and owning that space. That's phenomenal. Alexandra, I got wonderful news. We have a really cool question that came in through the chat, and I want to see what that question might be. So I'm sorry, Stanisiu Elena, I'm going to butcher your name, but I'm going to throw this question to Alexandra, where I can fund your work. So let's hear from you, Alexandra. Where can Stanisiu reach out to you, contact you? What are your profiles?
Right. So you can find me on Instagram. The journey is inwards. And the website will also be soon again launched. We've had already a couple of launches with some capsules from sweaters. But for sure, you can reach out on Instagram at the journey is inwards. And myself or other assistants who are emailing each other, they'll reach out and we'll find us. Yeah, for sure. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, Alexandra. And for everybody watching the live stream, you got questions, comments you want to throw into the chat, we will ask our panelists and we'll get you answers to life's most compelling questions. I want to turn now to some storytelling. I want to hear from each one of you. What was the biggest change that you've made in your career? I want you to tell me a story about the time that you've experienced the biggest change. Maybe it was just an insignificant moment when it happened, but turned out to have big, big consequences. So you've all gone through huge periods of transition, whether that's going from one discipline to a completely different discipline, or like Oludele finishing her degree in electrical engineering and now going out into work or into graduate school. So that's all automatically a big pivot. So I want to hear, what's the biggest change that's occurred in your career so far? And let's start with, let's go to Cristina this time for the first one. Cristina, tell us a story. What was the biggest change that happened in your career?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there are changes every 2 weeks, to be honest. But probably is about 10 years ago when I discovered the maker movement and the revolution associated to Fab Labs and maker spaces, because I found out finally that there was a domain that basically was including everything I liked. So the creating part, the experimental part, but also to share, to talk about things, to have to work in an open environment where everybody is welcomed. And so that was really a turning point for my life, for my career, and I'm happy that then it translated to also a practical change, because I then had the chance to meet my two people who had the same idea, the same interest, and we opened the first Fab Lab makerspace in Geneva, Switzerland.
That is absolutely incredible. What a story. What an amazing opportunity to see something like a Fab Lab create space so that you can have the opportunity to connect with new people and to bring forward something that is going to continue to change the world and change the way the things are done in Geneva. I think that's phenomenal. Well done, you. And I love that story. That's such a beautiful story of achievement. Let's move now to, let's go to Oludele. What's the biggest change you've had so far in your career? You're still early in your career, so I would just love to hear what you see, how you see it.
Okay, so I feel like the time I had like, I wouldn't say biggest change in my career, but like I had like a mindset shift. So it was in 2020 when I wanted to apply for an internship, and before then, I always told myself, "You can't do it. You can't do it. Just don't bother." So I really wanted an internship, and I tried. I worked so hard to get it, and I eventually got it. And I was like, okay, I can get this thing. And at that time, I just realized that I could do anything I wanted, and that has really helped me now. Even after graduating in a course in electrical engineering, I have into climate change. I've taken courses in product management. I have also started a business. I have just done so many things that are not directly related to what I studied, but have also given me like an opportunity to do what I enjoy doing. And yeah, I feel like that event or that internship that I got just changed the way I think and the way I look at the things I can accomplish and what I can't accomplish. So I just feel like that made me see that okay, I can do anything, and changing is something that I should be comfortable with. So yeah.
Well, I only have one thing to say about that, and that is this. You are amazing. Well done, you. That is absolutely amazing. I love to hear that you went from a place of doubt and insecurity, and you transition to a place of confidence. And not only confidence, but you went so far past what you were trained to do. You're trained in electronics or electrical engineering, and now you're out there working as an entrepreneur, working in design and working in so many other spaces. And that's what it takes to be a leader. And I think that you've got such a beautiful path ahead of you. Thank you for that story. That was fantastic. Let's move now to Alexandra. Alexandra, what is the biggest change you've had in your career?
Oh goodness, actually I had so many changes, but for sure, definitely launching Isai was unexpected. I've been living in the Netherlands for 12 years. I've studied chemical engineering, so professionally I'm trained as a chemical engineer, and here I am launching a fashion brand. And the turning point was at the moment when a couple of years ago, so part of my family is from the mountains in Romania, and we inherited some wool And my mom, she's passionate about knitting. So I just wanted to put my creativity to work. And I said, Mom, let's do something with this wool and make something beautiful. So as she was making it, I thought, this could be also maybe put to the market. So I've started researching that. And as I was researching it and we wanted to make more wool, that's when I found out that actually a lot of the workshops in the mountains where the yarn is made are being closed. And that was very personal trigger for me. Like, I don't understand why is that happening. And a bit of my chemical engineering experience put me into this curiosity path where I started researching what the issue was. And that's how I found out about the issue in Romania with wool. And I told my mom, let's do it. We are going to launch this. And I have no idea how to make clothes. I have no idea about fashion design, but I should maybe figure out how to make it and what the production line would look like or whatever. So yeah, that's definitely a big change for me.
That's beautiful. And I think what I love about it is it's a family story. I think showing the relationship that you have with your mom and seeing how that kind of gave life to a new business venture. And now you've taken and pivoted your career into a radically new direction, and you're achieving success in that. That's just, it warms my heart. And so thank you for that. Thank you. Let's go now. Let's see, who do we have left? We have Andreea. Let's hear from you. What's the biggest change you've had in your career so far?
Well, in my career, the big switch was when I joined Redu, which, well, I was an actress. I was minding my own business and doing independent plays and acting. And then being close to the NGO and worked as a volunteer till then, there was a job opening as a seamstress at the workshop, and the project was at the beginning. And I said, why not take a part-time job, because I was skilled in this area as well, not professionally, but I did some stuff. I knew how to sew the machines, and I said, okay, it's going to be a part-time, it's going to be fun. So I joined the team, and that was the point that I realized that you're not supposed to, it's that pressure that you have to make a career and to stick with it and get better and better and better at it, which is not a bad thing, but sometimes you can find out that you like to do 2 things or 3 things that you're passionate about, and you get involved with with all your heart in it. So that's what kind of happened, because I was going in parallel with these 2 until last year, when I took a pause from the acting for some time, because some wonderful things happened through Redu and through all these amazing projects that me and my colleagues are in, like Shemakes being one of them. So I think that's the most changing point.
That's absolutely brilliant. And I'm noticing a red thread here that's coming through a lot of these stories, and that is, I just jumped onto this this new opportunity, and it changed my life. Whether that's Oludele's internship that she got, or just opening a new business and being able to say, well, now this is what I'm going to do. So that's really, really brilliant. And I also just want to point something out here, because I'm seeing this happen a lot too, is every one of us has transitioned kind of dramatically to different fields of practice, different fields of study than where we started. And there's evidence that shows that that's actually the greatest predictor of success, is being able to try on a whole bunch of different pairs of shoes, if we could use that metaphor. And then finally, at some point in your life, picking a pair that works for you for that time, and then maybe trying new pairs of shoes on later in your life. There's myth, I call it the Tiger Woods myth, that you have to start something really, really early and then do nothing but that for the rest of your life. And I always tell my students, it's just a recipe for misery. So by the time you finish your bachelor's degree in computer science, you go out and do program for a few years. If you just do nothing but that, chances are you're going to get to your to your twilight years, and you're not going to be nearly as happy or successful as if you had tried on that other pair of shoes. All right, we got one last person. We got to hear from them about the biggest change they've had in their career. Sokhong, I want to hear from you now. How has your career changed? What happened?
Thank you, Dr. Anthony. For me, before I start my education sector, I used to work in sales, customer service, many different things. But then when I start my journey into education sector, it's make me feel amazing because it's not only for me to where I have the opportunity to learn, but when I learn and then I can update myself and improve myself. That's why my life changed. And when I change, I can be a role model for my student and the girl in my community, so they can look up to me just because I am taking a risk, like apply using whenever opportunity is throwing at me. I just take it and then learn from it, and then I can share it to my girl. And that's really inspiring and empowering for me when I can learn and develop myself. And just to be myself, I can inspire one more girl to believe in themselves and empower them to believe in themselves. If I can do it, everyone can do it. So
That's amazing, and that feeling of empowerment's coming through so strongly for me. And just being here with you and being able to witness all of your experiences, it fills me with joy, and it makes me think that my advice to my 5-year-old self would be to grow up to be any one of you, because all of you have done such incredible work, and I'm so proud to be here with you right now and to talk about these issues. I want to think now a little bit differently about how we're approaching our careers. And I don't want to focus in only on the success stories. One of the things that came out in some of our early discussions was about the issue of failure and how failure is a really important part of our career evolution. So I wonder if you could tell us a short story about a time that you failed and what you learned from it. I think this is something that would be really valuable for the people watching this live stream. And for anybody watching the live stream, why don't you put in the chat something that you may consider a failure in your career, and what did you do to kind of overcome that failure? Let us start now with Huan. I see Andrea's deep in thought. I might have to pick on you first, Andreea. All right, Andreea, let's get into it. What's your biggest failure in your career? Maybe not biggest. What's a failure in your career, and how did you get past it? What did it take?
Well, the one thing that comes to mind now, it's from the acting years. That was I experienced that once or twice, to be let off a play. And I know it's not really connected to this, but I think I perceived those moments like really big failures. And I was very harsh on myself at that when that happened. I put a lot of blame on me, but sometimes sometimes what I've learned from it is that things happen, and you just have to let it go in a while. Don't think about it too much. Try to see what did you learn, or what can you do better the next time. But I think through those two moments, I taught myself how to the timing. Let the blame, it's like the grieving process, but easier in a way. Accept it, let it go, take your lessons, move on. You're better, and we can't have just high moments. If you don't fall sometimes, you cannot get up. So yeah, everything has to be accepted and taken with the arms open in our lives.
Wise words. Just being able to accept that you're not perfect, and that you're going to mess up sometimes, and that you can move on from that we will survive, and we'll continue our lives. That's really, really profound. Thank you for that, Andreea. Let's move to Oludele. Could we hear from you? What was something that you maybe failed at, and how did you overcome it? Oludele, are you there?
So, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I there was a time in my in high school. So there was this exam I wrote, and I was meant to get into this school, but I didn't get into it. But my other siblings got into the school, and I felt like, oh, I'm a failure. Like there's nothing I can do right again. But what that taught me was that you failing at something at one point doesn't mean you're never going to pass. And another thing it taught me was resilience, because after that I studied really, really hard for the next school I applied to, and I got in. And I also feel like once you have it at the back of your mind that you're eventually going to pass this thing, it's just going to help you to prepare, and it's going to tell you that, okay, even if I fail this time, I'm still going to do it again because I already have this end goal in mind. I'm going to pass it eventually. So failure, once you just build your resilience and keep on trying again, failure is just going to seem like another thing. It's just going to seem like something that is just there to slow you down, but it's not going to stop you from getting to where you want to go to. So yeah, that's what that experience taught me.
Always try to I always try to confide with my students that I'm an academic. I have a doctorate, right? I'm a scholar. I've published dozens of academic publications. But when I tell my students that I failed some of my courses in college, it blows their mind because they just imagine, oh, you're a professor. You must have gotten A's your entire life. But no, I think it is that failure that can teach you how to be stronger, how to overcome, and how to kind of move on in your work. So thank you, Oludele. That was a very wonderful story. Very wonderful. Okay, who's next? I see Cristina anxiously wondering. Cristina, let us hear from you. What's a failure you faced and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I overcome it, but I think that it was the first year of my studies in physics. And it's a pity that I didn't enjoy it as I should have done for 20 or even younger, 20 years old girl, because I put too much pressure on myself, and instead of accepting small failures or things that happen to everybody who starts a new challenging career path, I was always thinking that I need to improve, and that's I think it's a failure because I missed something that could have been much better. Then I overcome it, luckily, because otherwise I wouldn't have finished my studies. But I don't know how. I think it's yeah, the time and people around you that looking not always on yourself, but looking around make you understand that you're not the only one facing problems or issues.
Amazing. Knowing that you're in good company. If you failed, you're in good company. And I feel like I'm in good company because I know I've failed multiple times in my careers. And knowing that I've seen you also have those struggles and you've overcome them, it gives me confidence as well for the next time I fail. Okay, let's move to Sokhong. I want to hear from you briefly. What is one of the failures you've experienced and how did you overcome it?
It's kind of tough question as well. But for me, my failure, I can say, is come from my insecurity from my childhood, and it's made me like, it's not a big failure, but a failure in my career, in my past career, because of my insecurity and uh, I can say my emotional intelligence, because I always care too much about what other people have to say of me. And you know, in education field and especially technology, where we work with in male counterpart, mostly we feel like we we not we not belong there, and we always have a lot of judgment and criticism from them. And in the past, I just run away from it. And from time to time, when I get a lot of experience from my work, it helped me to grow my emotional intelligence, and I have to be stronger. And now I strong in my new career because where I have such an amazing role model. She's our managing director. She inspired me. She worked so hard and she managed to do everything by herself. And that is make me like whenever I want to give up or I want to quit, I always look up to her. I always told myself, I can do it. I will do it. I will make it happen. And that's motivate me because I believe that even now I'm not really a high professional in my profession, but if I keep striving, if I keep learning, one day I will become successful woman and be a role model to inspire the next generation. Because we as a woman, we need to inspire each other, to empower each other to be the best version of ourselves. Yes, thank you.
I really love it. I think those self-empowerment phrases can be really captivating for us because it gives us that feeling of power, of strength. One of the things I found out recently is actually that if you refer to yourself in the second person, it's even more powerful. So rather than saying, I can do this, you say, Anthony, you can do this. So that way it's kind of putting yourself a little bit external to who you are, and it gives you that other perspective on things. Awesome. Love it, Sokhong. And I see, Sokhong, you actually have answered one of our questions that came in through the chat. So Art Trav had asked, what is it like to be a woman in science in Cambodia? And you really nailed that answer without even intending to, I don't think. But I want to ask the same question of some of the other panelists, but we haven't yet heard from not Cristina, from Alexandra about her biggest career change. Is that right? Or did I already ask you that question? I have not. I knew it. Okay, good. Alexandra, let's go to you. Let's get first your biggest career change, or no, I'm sorry, biggest career failure and how you overcame it. And then we'll go into this question about the challenges you faced based on your gender. Alexandra, let's hear it. Failure and how you overcame it. I think Alexandra is still on mute. For the moderator, please unmute.
Yes.
There she
is. Thank you.
Okay, good.
I will not touch it, so I'm just waiting to be unmuted.
No worries.
Right, only tough questions. So, failure in my career, well, of course, none of you knows, but I've had a career as a professional basketball player and in Romania. Yeah. And I know I did a lot of things in my life. And so that kind of ended at the end of high school. So just before starting my bachelor in chemical engineering, because it was tough to be a professional basketball player in Romania, financially wise. It was very, very tough. So it was also my failure that I felt I didn't have the resources to push through. But at the same time, that also brought me to the path of, going abroad and living in the Netherlands, and then coming back to Romania and being so connected to sustainability and to nature, and wanting to do something good, which probably, I don't know if I would be able to do that as a basketball player. However, a lot of the experience from being a professional sports player has helped me to grow throughout my career. It's a lot about discipline, and it's a lot about pushing through. And I'm very grateful for that. And I still love basketball. I mean, I'm not going to take that out of the equation ever. And yes, about gender. Right. Well, that's, yeah. Shall I? Okay. I cannot hear you, Anthony.
I'm sorry. One of the comments that came through, that was my bad. That was not the moderator. That was my fault. I pushed my mute button. One of the comments that came through the chat, I want to just add this to the discourse. So what we want to understand is, what are some of the gender barriers that you guys have faced? But the comment that that came up in the chat is that it looks like all these women feel more pressure than men. And how can we change that? So if I could go around and get everybody's perspective here, what are some gender-based barriers that you might have experienced? And then maybe respond to this idea of how can we change so that the organizations that we work for, the society that we live in, kind of takes that pressure off of women to kind of, in most ways, outperform men, to kind of double down. Really profound stuff, really tough questions. Thank you, Art Trap, for that question. That was phenomenal. All right, let's think here. Who's got a face of inspiration? I need to see that look of like, I got something. Christina, I see it in your eyes right now. You've got something cool for us. Let's hear it.
No, to be honest, I think there's a good side in putting pressure on yourself, because many men, they assume too much, I think. So if I have to choose between having the imposter syndrome or the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you believe that you can do everything, I would probably choose for the imposter syndrome. So I don't think that we need really to change, to adapt to the male work environment, because it was built by men, and there are some specific characteristics. I don't see that we need necessarily to adapt to it, but to change it and maybe find a balance between always doubting and always thinking that you are right. And so I think that the good balance, and something that I'm still learning, but I'm much better than probably 10 years ago, was to be able to say that you don't know something very, very without any problem. That's something that men probably struggle more than women, but also to be able to say, no, I think that's correct, and I'm convinced because I know it. So to find a balance between these two attitudes, I don't think that one is necessarily better than the other. And I don't want to work in an environment where you are not allowed to doubt, you are not allowed to say, I don't know it, I don't know how to do it. How would you do it? Because I don't know.
Yeah, you point out so many interesting things there. This issue of just being compassionate on ourselves and on each other, and having workplaces that are accepting of everyone's vulnerabilities. I think this is a really important aspect of how we structure our societies. And it gets Go ahead.
I think that the key is really diversity. It's not that, and it would be a failure really to assume that the existing model is the correct one.
And this is why men benefit from gender diversity as much as anyone. Because when we create our workplaces inclusively and we get rid of these toxic masculine attitudes for push, there's only one way of doing things and it's the right way. And if you're anything other than that, then you're maligned. I think that creates such a more empathetic and compassionate place to belong, not just to work, but to belong. And I think you've pointed that out in a really, really important way, Cristina. Thank you for that. All right, let's see. Whom else? Oludele, I want to hear from you. What kind of challenges do you think you've experienced because of your gender? Do you feel like you are under a lot more pressure than the men who you've worked with? How do you cope with that? And how can we change things? It's like 11 questions in one. You pick any one of those. Oludele, are you there?
Okay. Hi. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, so I feel like the major problem I've been having was comparing myself to guys, because first of all, I am a lady and I don't think I should have to do what I see them doing. And that comes down to knowing what you want and standing for what you want. Like Christina said, we don't have to walk in a male, we don't have to work based on the structures in place already. So we need to understand what we want and how we want to achieve that. So me, the problem I've been in was, I think it started with my parents, to be honest, because I have a brother that's just before me, and I feel like the standards they put in place for him, they just expected me to just go in line with that, and that's not something I wanted to do. I wanted to be free to do what I wanted to do. So I feel like that's like the major problem I've had. And as regards the pressure, I feel like the pressure has also helped me because now I know that I found myself. I know what I want. I know what I do not want, and that's also going to help me to impact the people around me. Because now my sisters, they've seen that okay, I'm doing what I want, and they can easily say this. I want. I get to choose what I want to do. So I feel like the pressure is kind of a good thing too. Yeah.
That's incredibly insightful and so important to point out that we're all role models here for the next generation, and I think you provide a really important role model for your family, Oludele. So thank you for that, and thank you for those insights. All right, I want to move now to our last question. I know we haven't hit everybody in this previous question, but that's okay because we have the most important question we always save for the end. That question is, what sort of fears have you had in your career? And what kind of solutions do you see for the future when it comes to helping other women who have faced these fears, who may face these fears? So what kind of fears did you face? And then what sort of solutions could you see would be effective for the next generation of women who may face these same fears? Let us start now. We didn't hear from Andreea in the previous question, did we?
Yeah, yeah, you didn't.
Yes, I know. Okay, so let's start with you.
Yeah, well, talk about my fears and solutions. Well, I think I've heard a lot about the imposter syndrome. It came around in our discussion, and yeah, I think that's something that uh, is in the back of my head. That's a big fear of mine, that maybe I'm not ready enough to do this. Maybe this idea of mine is not good to be taken to the public. Maybe it should wait. I don't know if I don't know how to put this in a way, but this is the fear that you're going to fail, and I keep asking myself why. Because failing is the most important part of a process. So but still it's something very embedded in our structure in a way. And I don't know if it's something that came through education, or it's something that it came from a world ruled by men until some years ago, and women achieved a lot in the last 100 years. I don't know as a solution to this. I think I would put restarting the rules, starting to I think men have imposter syndrome in feelings, in connecting, in not being allowed to cry, having to always be the strong one. So I think that's where we should align. It's time. We can communicate. It's time to restart a bit this equality syndrome.
Yeah. Toxic masculinity is toxic for everyone. It really affects all of our lives, and this is part of what we're trying to do is disconnect ourselves from these traditions that no longer serve our society and really never have. And I'm a huge advocate for educational reform. I've gone on the record more than once saying we need to burn the system down and start over again, because what it is not working the way it should work. And I think this issue of imposter syndrome that's come up a couple of times, The science here shows that, yes, everybody experiences imposter syndrome, but women, and especially women who hold intersectional identities, experience imposter syndrome to a much greater extent. And so, I empathize. I'll never know what it is to walk in your shoes, but my heart grows just knowing that you've gotten where you've gotten, each and every one of you. Let's go now. I want to hear from Sokhong. We haven't heard from her in a little bit. Sokhong, what's a fear that you faced in your career? And what do you think some solutions might be to helping the next generation overcome that fear?
Thank you for the question. And for me, the fear in my career is not really different from every one of us here, because mostly we as a female, especially working in this STEM, we face a lot of judgment and criticism, bullying, and also because of that noise come from outside, and it's make us sometimes feel doubt about our ability and whether we can do it or not. The negative voice keep repeating, and then we need to be strong. And the solution to solve that, actually we have developed in Cambodia successfully, which is Sister of Code, the project that I currently working on. We work to inspire more women, to empower them, to build their self-confidence, to believe in themselves. And how can we change that? Because the girl in Cambodia, they also most often, all the time, they always hear like technology is not for girl, it's only for boy. You are a girl, you cannot do it. You just go there and learn, and then you waste your parent money. What is the point to go there? But instead of that, we try to promote gender equality by allowing them to access a real education in coding, in technology, and also computer science, to make sure that they have a real experience on that, and to make them feel like it's not what like other people say. We want to change that old stereotype that female cannot do anything. Female is a weak gender. Female just do housework. It's not technology, STEM field, and science is not for them. So we want to remove that by building a supportive community where all Cambodian girls come together who have the same mission, who have the passion in technology and want to strive for the better future for them. And when we can change them, just only making a change a future of one person, we can change a huge impact for our society. And with Sister of God, we make that happen. And last year, just to mention, it's also possible for us thanks to the technology as well. Because of COVID-19 in Cambodia, we all suffer with a lockdown, so we cannot deliver this course online, but we managed to do it online, and we reach more people. More than 100 students join our program, and with 316 students apply, because you see it's a huge demand for girl interest, but they're not confident to do so. So this is the place we make a big impact for them, and it's the impact that can change their life forever. Thank you.
Yes, there we go. You are already solving this challenge, and I love it. And when I said about the education system starting over, if we could make it like that, then we're good. Then we're golden. Thank you, Sokhong, for your work. Thank you, each and every one of you, for your time and your energy and your engagement. It is the most precious resource to each of us. And I want to just say one last thing before we go, and that is, you are amazing. I appreciate you taking the time. For everybody who watched the live stream, you guys are awesome. We're going to close down and wish you a happy weekend in 3, 2, 1.